afternoon, investigators. Mike Evans all by himself. Casey Pine's unwell today. You're stuck with me. Big program today. Really big Tasmanian.
And I just couldn't let go.
That's what it's like down in Tasmania. It's all country and western. Say good day in the chat, people. Great to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Signature Investigation Group down in New South Wales are seeking factual investigators. Get in contact with Andrew Davis from, Investigative Services Group. Sorry. There's his contact details there. Now, if that went too fast for you, wait half an hour, come back to where you're watching this on Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever, and just replay it, okay? And you can see Andrew's email address, his telephone number, and if you're an Australian Security Academy student, he wants to speak to you. He said to me, I and my top investigators obtained their certificate through you, and I would like to maintain the same level of quality moving forward. So if you're an Australian Security Academy graduate student, you got no excuse. Andrew wants to give you some work. G'day, Colin. Great to see you, mate. I hope you are well. Hello, Michelle. I hope you're wonderful. Hi, Amber. Happy Friday to you. I hope you are good. G'day, Chris. Great to see you. It's time for a cup of coffee and a Friday afternoon chat. Big news throughout this week on every front you could possibly imagine. IBAC down in Victoria have released their latest report on all their activities, and they've gone and looked at 3,550 complaints in the last year. They've assessed 3,501 of them, so a few of them might have been vexatious or it's a bit hard to read. 606 complaints notifying received as public interest disclosures. So all things happening down in IBAC, and they released that information this week. Give them a Google and you can find out what IBAC have been doing. Hello, Tracy. It's always great to see you and your smiling face. Welcome along. Hope you have a great weekend, Trace. Thanks for checking in, people. Really helps me when people check in because it just motivates me to be a little bit more interesting, because nothing's going to be more interesting than this today. It is surveillance agent Dougie, who I missed last week, assisting on surveillance. There he is, flat out helping Matt on surveillance. Every day he goes out and helps Matt. So good on you, Dougie. It's great to see that happening. Hello, Chantel. Great to see you. Thanks for checking in, Chantel. Vendor management. They don't care where you live. They have work for you. All right. So you can work from your home office, working for the great team at Vendor Management, and do investigations for them and earn a very good living with Ash and the team at Vendor Management. So great opportunity there. In Queensland this week, big news with DNA bungles. At Queensland, scientists are in all sorts of strife because they brought in a robotic system for DNA analysis and it didn't work, and it held things up, and there's all sorts of blame and excuses going on, and it's all happening in Queensland. People were convicted wrongly, all sorts of things happening. So that came out in the news this week, like a lot of other things, but that was an interesting one, particularly, with your crime stuff. It doesn't really affect the private investigators all that much. As you know, in our private investigator course, we get you to do exercise where you go and watch the court process and report on the outcomes of what you've seen. It's quite funny, but everyone I interact with who's going to be a private investigator has a clean record. That might have done some silly things when they were young, a long time ago, but they've never been to court. So we send them along to court to get a feel for what the court's like, because one day you might end up in a tribunal, or you could possibly end up in not a civil court, but a criminal court, because your civil matter has escalated to a criminal matter for whatever reason. So our student went along and watched. He was sitting in the court, and a couple of people didn't turn up for their cases. And the magistrate said to him, well, I'm going to deal with your case now. What are you here for? Which is naturally, because he's sitting in the court, why else would you be there? But you can go into any court in Australia if it says open on the door, except the family court and the children's court. And you can go and watch. So he's sitting, this is what happened, get this. So the day at the magistrate's court was a great experience. A couple of cases failed to show. So the magistrate asked if I'd like to do my case immediately instead of waiting. Once I explained why I was in the court to do my course and report, I had the benefit of a 20-minute chat with His Honour and the police prosecutor on the workings of the court. How good's that? What a bonus. You can't buy that sort of thing. They're great. You remember that one, don't you, Chris? It's a really good exercise. I'm going to the federal court for real in December. Looking forward to it. Can't wait. I'm busting getting there till I get in the witness box and be cross-examined, I guess. But who knows? Yeah. All right. Good on you, Craig. We won't say what it was, mate. We'll keep that to ourselves. All right. This is a beauty. In the Currumbin Valley, a man was charged with setting man traps, drugs and firearms offences after a search warrant executed at the property. What happens in really serious matters? The police do surveillance and civil investigators do surveillance. Today they use drones, helicopters, long-range optics and all that sort of thing. And drones the same with policing, not so much private investigators. But they really get a feel for what's happening around the house. And what they do is they watch how the subject enters or exits the house. And if they see them going through a bedroom window on the side of the house and coming out a bedroom window instead of the front and back doors, it gives them a really good idea that there is a trap set on those doors in case the police try to bash them down. And when police go and do the raid on those places, they enter through the bedroom windows and don't go through the front and back doors because they've got intelligence saying not to do that. So one day they were doing this down in Melbourne, and they went and checked the back and front doors and explosives were attached to them. So if anyone had bashed them down, it would have exploded. So that man trap business, very serious. As a bush and rural surveillance operator, you'll find yourself in the middle of dope crops accidentally quite frequently, and there are man traps in there, and they're pretty nasty things. Not puppets. In your street, Colin. Don't go trick-or-treating anymore, mate. Stay home, okay? Oh, dear. Now, Colin's not going to sleep tonight. That wasn't good of me to do that. Oh, great fun up in Queensland. So a lawyer and real estate agent separated with his partner, and he's given her a list of 100 and something things, 68 random household items he wants back. And this has hit the news, and it's really interesting stuff in Brisbane, apparently. So he's told her, you know, we've separated, whatever, I want my anchor back, I want my rope back, I want this back, and I want that back, and whatever. And so the press have got hold of having a field day with it. And one of the things he wants is a grey and blue trunk that used to belong to General MacArthur. And that got me thinking, well, if you've got a grey and blue trunk that belonged to General MacArthur and you want it back, it's not going to be hard. It will return. Thanks, everybody. I'll write my own jokes, do all my own material. That's 2 weeks in a row. Colin's not going trick-or-treating in the Currumbin Valley anymore. All right. Okay. So some of our students this week, Emily Webb, who's now a licensed private investigator and crime writer. She put on a program down in Victoria, and look at the crowd there to listen to Emily's launch of her new book. Look at that, how many people are interested in Emily's stuff. And you can see Emily featured in interviews with Casey in past programs of Spy Curious. Yes, Amber, I know. It's funny to me. Good on you, thank you. Down in Burnie in Tasmania, this absolute tragedy. 80-year-old Pam G had gone in to do some shopping and pay some bills into Burnie. She parked a car in a car park and was walking back to crossing these lights, which have a 3-second start for people who are elderly or wheelchaired or on crutches or walking sticks, whatever. And she was walking across there. The truck from the rubbish collection, council rubbish collection provider service, was driving towards her, didn't see her, had 15 seconds to see her, but they had that lifting device that lifts the rubbish bins over the back, so the big industrial rubbish bins, that was in the driver's way. He was using the front and rear cameras to see, like tank drivers do, but he couldn't see Pam G in front of him. 15 seconds, the magistrate said he had to see her, but he was blinded by leaving that thing in the way to save time lifting it up and down. She died the next day. She was hit, died the next day. He's the police attending. The awful thing, very awful thing to have to go and attend. So they're interviewing witnesses. The ambulance are there trying to resuscitate her, save her life, to no avail. She did die the next. Very true lady. She was active. She was 80 years old, very active, and she lost her life due to the negligence driving of that truck driver. He was found guilty. He's serving a 3 month suspended sentence. So it's like it was an accident. He didn't deliberately drive her. He wasn't affected by alcohol or drugs, and the truck was in perfect nick. So that's a tragic one down in Tasmania. It's a typical one. Private investigator will investigate. The Transport Department, that's your government investigators, they will investigate that as well. Yep. There you go. So you can look it up, Jack. Yep, your boss. Yep. Every boss should do that. But you can look it up and you can see Pam G, 80-year-old Burnie, lost her life. 2021, I think it was, but they found that truck driver guilty of negligent driving, 3 months suspended sentence. A very lucky man. He'd have that on his conscience for a long time. So absolute tragedy, that one. More interesting one, in less tragic, in Devonport in Tasmania, an organisation had one of their diggers stolen, and it was taken to Mountain River, which is in the Huon Valley behind Hobart. Now, this is kind of weird because they are diametrically as two opposite ends of the state as you could just about get. And to go and steal that, tow it all the way back through the main highway, right, even over through the lakes, which is still a main highway now, sealed all the way, it's going to take 3 hours to get from point A, Devonport, to point B at Mountain River. And so a 35-year-old Mountain River man has been arrested and charged with burglary and stealing following the burglary of Devonport business on the 23rd of October, so that's only this week. It's alleged he entered the business about 1:30 a.m, proceeded to steal a number of items, including an excavator. So the information was received from members of the public. So he was dobbed in by neighbours or whatever for what he was doing. And it's like a third world country, Mountain River. It hasn't changed in 50 years. I used to go there a lot on surveillance. And one of the things you notice about Mountain River when you're doing surveillance there is the spiders are as big as dogs. They're massive, bloody great big things. It's behind Mount Wellington, directly behind Mount Wellington, and these spiders love the forest down at Mountain River, and they are enormous. That picture's probably exaggerated for your arachnophobes. They're more this size, so this is one I took a photo of. That's more what they're like, but I'll never forget Mountain River. I'm not terrified or have a phobia about spiders. Just what got to me was you're walking through the bush there doing your bush and rural surveillance. These bloody things were everywhere. It makes it a lot of fun because it's nice change from snakes. In Victoria, this is big, people. This is as big as it gets. The first conviction of its kind for sexual harassment down in Victoria, where a man and a business were fined very heavily in regards to sexual harassment of young workers in the workplace, and it was WorkSafe in Victoria that led it, did the investigation and applied the regulations. So the principals here, they got heavily fined. And this is something that you as a government investigator will be doing throughout the country now. So, oops. Oh, sorry, lost my place. Here I am. So $290,000 in Victoria for a hospital cafe boss after sexual harassment case. So that is an amazing outcome. I'm really pleased to see it. It sends a message. You're going to do that, you're going to get heavily fined. And I'm really pleased to see that they are onto it. Jack, yeah, you are around the corner from Mountain River, mate. My word, it is a beautiful spot. So, yeah, down in Victoria, they're onto this now. This is groundbreaking stuff. I'm really pleased to see it, not just as an investigator, but as a member of the community, father, grandfather. This is just great that they're onto that. People don't go to work to get sexually harassed by other people. So it's great news. It's way over time. If you're going to do it, you're going to get a lot of negative publicity. You're going to get very heavily fined. That was just one of the fines. I think they will keep it up. They're very serious about it. So it's just great to see. I'm just so pleased about it. Of course, it will open up work for investigators, private investigators in defence of those things. But anyway, that's our system. It's adversarial. But if WorkSafe find it, and they've got very good investigators in WorkSafe in Victoria, they're going to make those fines. Now, Matthew Cito, who's one of our students, he was talking about the Labor government down there saying this week that they're looking at the pending claims for stress and how that's changing. There's going to be a little bit more emphasis on the pending side. So he said that's pretty good. And one of the things that the new Premier down there has promised to do is stop raiding WorkSafe, which has an income of $3.6 billion a year, to prop up other government departments that are going broke. So that's going to be interesting. There's the promise by the Premier for that. I don't know whether they'll actually do it. It might be just a lot of talk to try and win the public over, but it'd be an incredible thing if they, like she said, reinvested the funds paid by the employers for work safety back into safety. And that would make it a much safer place. Back to Tasmania, a very negative one down in Tasmania. We've reported this one in this program before, both of them. So there's this one down near where Jack lives, round the corner, this north of where Jack lives. This guy, Gordon Bird, sentenced to 4 years for burning his house in his combi van. Now, previously, his other house burnt down in another area, and he was charged with dishonesty and arson over in Triabunna, which is on Tasmania's east coast. There was a fire before both of those, and his wife at the time died in the fire. The police are now looking at the fact that she may have been killed by him. It's an allegation at the moment. It was generally accepted previously that she'd committed suicide because that was his story. So now they're charging with these dishonesty charges. He's served time in prison. Now they're looking at the possibility of a murder charge as well. And it's an awful situation, really awful, tragic situation for the deceased, the two boys, their wider family. That's an awful thing, but justice, I hope it prevails. So I look forward to that. Gotta love Tasmania, Jack. Well, that's all happening down there this week. Next week, I'll pick on Adelaide. Okay, so we'll do that. Keep everybody happy. Yeah, you can look it up. You can see it if you Google it, you'll be able to find it. You see his history of arsons. He claims he has PTSD, like you and people you know. You know a lot of people that actually have PTSD for very genuine reasons. He claims that as his excuse for his dishonesty and his arsons. None of the people I know with PTSD are dishonest. They don't burn things down. So you can't blame whatever it is, disability that you're claiming on, your responsibility. So I hope the police have a good outcome for the community and justice for Mrs. Bird and the family. Okay. Last week, I raised the issue of licensing in Tasmania. Now, what's coming out down there is if you are trendy and you say that all your investigations are trauma-informed, then you don't have to have a license as a private investigator to do the same work 125 other private investigators do in Tasmania and 8,000 other private investigators do in Australia. So by being trauma-informed and trendy, you don't have to be licensed. And the Tasmanian government and the Consumer Affairs Department has been doing favours for some people claiming trauma-informed, just like PTSD, and I'll burn down the house. Well, no, we're not having it. We want to know, as licensed private investigators in the industry, why it isn't transparent down there that 125 people have to have a private investigator's license, and I'm sure there's 60 organisations have to have a security organisation license, but others don't. And in the past, in Tasmania, we all had to have security training licenses, look like this, and then one day they were just taken away without explanation because influential people down there influenced consumer affairs and they took them away. But no explanation was given. There was no transparency. We want transparency relating to what's going on. We want to know, as an industry and licensed private investigators, what is actually happening at Consumer Affairs in Tasmania. Absolutely right. He's got mental health issues. I have no doubt about that. Serving time as a result of it wouldn't have alleviated them in any way and only would have added to it. But his dishonesty offences, they're proven, and that's what's going to make him a liar, yeah. Yeah, trauma-informed has been something that's been claimed by several people of recent times. Now, it's genuine, but what they're saying is back in 10 years ago or 5 years ago, all the investigators were rough nuts who went out and abused all the respondents and witnesses and didn't have any empathy or knowledge of what they went through as far as their claim was, which is crap. I have never worked with another factual investigator or a surveillance investigator that had a wrong approach about investigations and not understanding of the pain that people were going through. You have to have that. You have a scam-free day. Just while you're on the subject of scams, Evan, we had another investigator in Queensland last night receive the threatening email in relation to the contract, which is a scam, and the IP intellectual property claim against them. And another one came forward this morning and said they had the same thing with a website, people that built the website, and Contract have contacted them as well. So if you get an email from Contract in Germany people, it's a scam. Totally ignore it. That's really, really important. So I can't overemphasize that. If you are looking for work as a licensed private investigator, jump on our Australian Security Academy Facebook page, which looks like this, and you'll see lots of jobs there. I didn't get time this week to bring them all and put them all in here, but there's work there for private investigators. And if you are an Australian Security Academy graduate student, get in touch with me and I'll put you in touch with every single employer. You'll have their email address, their phone number. They want to speak to you. They have work. They're getting inundated with work. There's lots of work there. Keep in mind, we are closed this December from Wednesday, the 20th of December to Monday, the 8th of January. So we will have a bit of time off this year in relation to that. But if you're looking for work, get in touch with me and jump on that Facebook page. There's lots of work. You have been watching episode 237 of Spy Curious, where we enjoy what's happening all around the country every week, in particular in New South Wales. People, please get in touch with ISG and Andrew Davis. He wants to speak to you. And this one's really important too, because where am I? No, I've lost it. So I can't do this program by myself. I've got to have Casey or I'll just fall apart. One of the other questions I always get asked is if you have an elevator pitch about what you do, and this comes back to me saying I've never worked with investigators that didn't understand trauma that people have been through, but I've worked with a lot of arrogant investigators in government investigations and private investigations. You will meet them too. They'll be really arrogant, really defensive, and really concerned about you, you know, and you being there because you might identify their imposter syndrome. So it's really interesting. Happens in all industries, but it happens here too. Have to redo my Cert 3. Old Cert no longer recognise anything before 2020 is not valid. Well, I would disagree with that because they're issuing, not you personally, Jack, but they're saying one thing is a set of rules for a bunch of people. Anyone else who's trauma-informed, self-appointed, they've got a halo effect and are the darlings of the industry. I had one employer ring me up and say, do you still have the old P-plate system for investigators in Tasmania? They can work while they're learning. I've got 4 I want to put through. I said, no, well, I can't tell you, mate, because they've got a system now where if you're trauma-informed, you don't have to have a license and it's free, because that's what Consumer Affairs do, and the Tasmanian Integrity Commission allow it. And if Lupo Prins, who's in charge of that, finds out about it, I wouldn't want to be the public servant at Consumer Affairs. That would be the last person I'd want to be on planet Earth, because you make a fool of Lupo Prins, look out. Even if it's true, it's not being licensed relevant to being trauma-informed. All I hear is someone behind this has very specific reasons. Yeah, it's income. Apply for licenses. They called telling me that my application was denied. Yeah, you and I'll sort that out, Jack. We'll figure that out. Okay, so yep, that's not a problem. So we'll work it out once we get an answer from Consumer Affairs with what's going on. Back to you'll meet arrogant people in this industry. One of the good things about you've got to be able to describe yourself like an elevator pitch, and it's really good to practice it. If you have to describe what you do to people very quickly, here's some little hint, and it's in a little video. Well, we'll be in a minute. So it's really important to be able to concisely say what you do. You're in the answers business, people. Don't let anybody tell you you're doing anything else. The Seeker Group are seeking circumstance investigators in Victoria. Send your resume to robert@seekergroup.com.au. If you get in touch with Robert, there was his phone number. Go back and replay this video and stop it. Contact Robert. You speak to him today. You'll be starting Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. with the Seeker Group if you're a licensed factual investigator in Victoria. So Seeker Group looking for people. Get in touch with Andrew Davis, really important, but get in touch with Rob down at the Seeker Group in Victoria. There's lots of work out there. So hopefully Casey will be better next week. Pat Flynn will be better next week. I hope you enjoyed the... forgot to do this. If you watched this previously in Investigations Uni, I'll see you next week, people. But just to cover it, this is what the average personal injury claim in Australia payouts were from CIRA New South Wales, and it relates only to New South Wales. Workers' compensation in New South Wales, there were, in 2021-22, 100,688 workers' compensation claims for a total of 4.57 billion was paid out, at an average of 45,433 for every claim reported. So some people would have got $20 for a packet of Band-Aids and some headache tablets. Other people's heirs would have got $1 million because they had fatal accidents, and that would have been their income till retirement, and that's what the heirs would have benefited from. CTP liability, motor vehicle accident in New South Wales. In 12 months to September 2023, 12,006 motor vehicle accident claims for CTP liability. 1.22 billion was paid out in benefits and lump sums. That's 101,616 per average claim. It's very interesting. Medical negligence, you'll investigate this as a government or private investigator. According to the data obtained by the Northern Daily, the Hunter New England Health Service, New South Wales, $650,000 was what you got if the surgeon sewed up a scalpel inside your tummy after your tummy surgery and you had pains in your tummy for a couple of weeks. So that's medical negligence, the average claim. Now, some people would have got $5, other people would have got $750,000. This is just an average. TPD, total permanent disability, ranged from 60,000 to 300,000, with many payouts in New South Wales over 200,000. So people were injured in accidents or acquired some kind of disease at work or whatever it was, or however, that'll be in your superannuation statement, what you can claim there. So all that information is from CIRA New South Wales, who are the regulator for those industries. So that's quite interesting. In relation, brings it into perspective. Now, why have I got that? Because as an investigator, you put your heart and soul into an investigation, workers' comp, CTP liability, public liability, general insurance, motor vehicle accident, medical negligence, TPD, whatever. You never hear the outcome, because the claims managers, the lawyers, the doctors, they all sit down, surgeons, physiotherapists, whatever, sit down, say this is adversarial system, one lot on one side of the table, they negotiate, they settle on a figure, there's an amber claim at the beginning, then they bring it down to reality in relation to the person's loss, which is always where it's at, and they sign a confidentiality agreement. And you might have got the gist on the way through, this is $1 million claim, but you never know. And if a confidentiality agreement's signed, you'll never find out. The ones where they go and argue about it ends up in court, they're always reported. Okay, so you will find out those ones. And I once did a surveillance job where a lady, I read in the paper, she got $1 million. And I thought, wow, this was 20 years ago, a lot of money, still a lot of money today. But she fell 8 meters. She was outside a nightclub. She fell 8 meters through a hole in the fence, hit her head on landing, and the ambulance was called, emergency services all got there. When they got there, her husband tried to fight him off from saving her life. She survived. She wasn't, things weren't going well for her. So, I'm glad she got her money. It was really good to see. She was a lovely lady too. Really, really nice person. Just her husband was a dick when he was drunk. So you see strange things happen. You read about them in the paper later on. That's why I just put in that slide about workers' compensation. If you enjoyed it, you can replay it and see it. Don't rely on it. They're averages, okay? And all those people are in a lot of pain. All right, so never consider making a claim and getting hurt. It's not worth it. the pain's not worth it. Thanks for watching, people. We'll be back next week with Casey Pine, I hope, Pat Flynn, I hope. We're going out in our usual way.
작전 종료. 전원 복귀할 것.
That's our mission complete this week. Thanks very much, Facebook user. I really enjoyed the feedback. Thank you, people. Have a great weekend. Thank you for laughing at my unfunny jokes, people. Good on you, Colin. Great to see you, Amber. Have a great weekend. Tracy, you have a wonderful weekend. I think it's going to be raining on the Gold Coast, but we're not complaining because of the bushfires, I think. See you next week, people. Thanks for watching. Apply for those jobs and get in touch with Andrew Davis and Robert the Seeker Group in Melbourne, Andrew Davis in Sydney. See you then, people. Thank you.